what am I doing here? Never thought I would be here, but I'm not a person that spends a lot of time thinking about what's next. So my talk is for those of you out there that don't have a plan. I want to tell you that it is possible to be successful even if you don't have a dream. I spent the majority of my career making adult diapers, and let's be honest, no one dreams of doing that. So, as a kid, I developed a lot of bad habits. It started in 5th grade when I was introduced to a gateway drug. You've probably heard of it, Gatus. So, gifted and talented, something. I don't know what the last 2 letters are for, which is part of the problem. But in 5th grade Gatus, we were allowed to leave campus on Wednesdays. And so we would leave and go to this off-site location, and we would do gifted and talented things. And what I learned from that was that I didn't need to do my homework on Tuesday nights. Now, I travel from there, and now I'm going into the 6th grade, and for some reason, I wasn't selected for Gatus in the 6th grade. That was odd. But I did carry that practice on of not doing my homework. I had actually expanded it now where it's no longer just Tuesday nights. We're going for all the other nights as well. And that led to a mid-year report card where I had 4 Fs that year. So a parent-teacher conference was scheduled pretty quickly, and I have 2 distinct memories from that day. The first is we were going to recess, and as I'm exiting the classroom door, just to the left of the door, I see my father. My single-parent father, who also works night shift. To say that the look he gave me was terror-inducing would be the understatement of the century. The other memory I have is after recess, we're returning to the room, and you've got the hustle and bustle of 20 or 30 kids returning to their desks. It's noisy, and just as the room starts to quiet down, Miss Ebo, my teacher, with a dramatic turn, says, "Oh, Jimmy." "Yes, ma'am." "Your daddy said to tell you you were going to get it when you got home." So I learned where the line was that day. Not doing my homework and passing, completely acceptable. Getting 4 Fs and not passing, as my father so eloquently described to me that afternoon, not acceptable. And so that's the line that I use to manage the entire rest of my scholastic career. I did just enough to pass every single year. So now I'm 17 and I'm rapidly approaching graduation, and we've established that I don't have a plan. So what am I going to do? So like most people who end up in that situation, I find myself going to the Armed Services Recruiting Center. And I thought, I'm going to change. I want to be adventurous. I'm going to jump out of planes. I want to ride in helicopters. I want to shoot the big guns. And unfortunately, that day, there was no plane jumping people there. And I wound up talking to the U.S. Navy recruiter. And he asked me what classes I was taking, so I shared that I was taking calculus and physics and chemistry, and luckily he didn't ask my GPA for those classes, but he said, I think the Navy nuclear power program is a good fit for you. The main thing he started promoting was that there was a $4,000 enlistment bonus, at which point I just said, just shut up, you had me at hello. So I go to Navy boot camp, which the main objective seems to be how small can you fold your clothes, is what you learn there. But after that, it was about 18 months of rigorous classroom where you're learning everything about a nuclear reactor. And I learned that the Navy has a line too. Now in the Navy, you can give that bare minimum, but the military controls your entire life. So you're going to get that same output from the military. You're going to get bare minimum sleep. You're going to get bare minimum time off. You're going to get bare minimum pay. And those were all things that I really wanted. So I changed. I actually became a good student for the first time ever. And I started getting good grades. I started being at the top of my class. And from there, I went to a nuclear submarine. And nuclear submarines are unique in the military because most military branches, what matters most is what's on your sleeve. What rank are you? When you're on a submarine, what I discovered that mattered most was how knowledgeable are you? Can you do your job well? Are you able to perform under pressure? And so I changed again. I wanted to be the top guy on that submarine. So I threw myself into trying to learn as much as I possibly could. As the intro said, after about 9 years, now I'm getting ready to exit the military. And I don't want to spoil the plot, but I had no plan on what I was going to do next. But I'm 27 years old, and I need a job. So I end up coming back to South Carolina, and I get a job as a supervisor in a manufacturing facility. Now I've got to take all of that lessons that I've learned in the military, and how can I apply those to this civilian world and still be successful? So I've been there 28 years now, and I've probably been promoted once every 4 years or so. And so I'll have people come to me and they'll say, hey, Jimmy, how do you get promoted in this company? What's the secret to getting to where you are in the organization? And I share with them that I think you're asking the wrong questions or you're going about it the wrong way. It's not a secret treasure map where if you do items A, B, and C, you're going to magically find the pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. When I reflect back, I tell them that the majority of my success has been my willingness to admit that I have faults and then working on those weaknesses to strengthen them. The first example of that really happened when I was a supervisor and I was going to be promoted to being a manager. And they have you take a personality test so that they can identify your strengths and your weaknesses. As we were reviewing my results, they shared that I had scored in the second percentile in social skills. And I thought, well, this is great. I scored in the top 2% of everybody that's ever taken this exam. And they kind of paused and they were like, well, no, it's actually the other way. And I thought that can't be right. I don't have problems in a social setting. You know, I have teammates that I work well with. I do fine in that area. And so they explained to me that, no, this isn't measuring your ability to function socially. It's measuring your need for that social interaction. So in layman's terms, that means that I was a prime candidate for one of those supermax prisons. You know, you by yourself, 23 hours a day, all alone. Yeah, that's me. Well, that was important feedback for me to get if I was going to be managing people. I needed to strengthen that weakness of mine because the people that worked for me, they were going to need that social interaction. Apparently, 98% of them need that social interaction. So it wasn't going to be easy or natural for me to be able to do that. So I had to create systems to improve that weakness. I created databases with pictures and first names so that if I saw people out in my workspace, I could call them by their first name. I had sheets with daily birthdays on it that I would carry with me. I have text message reminders to this day to remind me to text people if there's important events going on in their life. So what I hope you're hearing is that we should try and bloom where we are planted, right? That's a pretty famous slogan that we hear sometimes in Clemson. If you're in your workspace and somebody has feedback for you, listen to them. Don't run away from that weakness. Try and run toward it. So if you're out there today and you don't have a plan, that's okay. If you try and focus on being great in the role that you're in today, maybe like me, maybe your plan will find you. Thank you.